Cool. Well, thank you to Sanity. Thanks to Cap. We're really excited to be joining you guys. We're based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Cap mentioned it earlier. She's like, I don't actually know where this place is, but we're in Amish country. So I'm Chris Conley. I'm creative director at Thread.
And I'm Kegan. I'm the front-end developer here at Thread.
Yeah, and Thread is a creative studio. We partner with ambitious brands to help those brands lead from the front through strategic positioning and thoughtful storytelling. Our team represents a wide variety of creative offerings, from design to development to filmmaking to photography, and of course, strategy. Whether it's producing films, shaping visual identities, or art directing photo shoots, our team's really just driven to serve our clients and brands and organizations we work with and to affect change in their organizations. So this was a really fun project for us to be able to highlight and to bring to you guys because it really represents the best of our studio. Steve Cabalar and the Cabalar brand have been close friends of ours for a long time. So this is going to be a fun project for us to highlight. So to start off the conversation, I'm just going to build some context for everyone by sharing a little bit about how the project came to us, who Cabalar is, and of course, what we've done to them before we dove into Sanity. And then Kegan will take the rest of the conversation kind of into more of a technical space and highlight a little bit more of how we built Cabalar Studio to best serve the chefs on their team. So Cabalar Meat Company is an incredible butchery that started in Lancaster in 2018. It was started by Steve Cabalar and his wife, Leanne. They were both CIA grads out of New York and lived in Philly. And they moved to Lancaster with the hopes of starting a butchery and retail store in the Lancaster city downtown. Lancaster is a really small city known for kind of its farms outside of the immediate city downtown. And so Steve was hoping to source sustainable products and to butcher them downtown and to serve, the community by being a local butcher. Unfortunately, Steve was kind of met with the reality that the city's just really small and the need for a butcher really wasn't there as much as he thought it was. There are already so many local butchers in the area at central markets and different farmers markets. And so no one really came to the area to get meat from his butchery. So heading into 2020, his business was really looking bleak. And we at Thread had a front seat for this because our studio was actually right below where his restaurant was. We were in the same kind of commercial building in Lancaster downtown. So we became really close friends with Steve over that time. And we're oftentimes one of few customers who would end up going into his butchery each day just to say hi. And he did serve sandwiches and burgers as well. It was just kind of a menu item that many people didn't enjoy at the time. Then in 2020, of course, the pandemic hit and COVID changed everything for Steve. Because of the pandemic, restaurants all over the area, all over the world were shut down. Thankfully, Steve was able to do curbside pickup for his restaurant. And so Lancaster, not having a lot of food opportunities and options, Cabalar just became the go-to for so many people. So when many restaurants were closing down during the pandemic and really having a difficult time, Cabalar was exploding. Steve wasn't just keeping his staff, he actually had to hire during the pandemic, and he saw just incredible growth. At one point, he actually had gifted, I think it was around 400 burgers to a local hospital. And it was just incredible to see the community kind of rally around his restaurant, which it's kind of on that note that Steve realized, I think I need to change my business model. I don't really need to be a butchery anymore. I need to be a restaurant. And for that to be what was coming through kind of from a business standpoint. So Steve came downstairs and immediately with our team was like, hey, I need a brand and I need your guys' help. But there's kind of one caveat. I don't have any money. He again, was still growing through the pandemic, but with adding labor costs and food costs, it wasn't like he was cash flush. There was still a lot of risk in a small business and a small restaurant in Lancaster City. So of course, the pandemic affected our business as well. And so we had this incredible opportunity and time to jump in with him. So we kind of took stock at what he had already. So Steve had worked with one of his friends just to stand up a static website at the time. And it had a lot of the same kind of visual motifs that you would expect from a local butchery, a lot of pigs and cows and chickens, and it was very farm oriented. And Steve felt like, man, this experience isn't really what I want this to be like at my restaurant. Like, it feels really sad, it feels stereotypical, and it's not very distinctive. So our team really felt like, man, what an incredible opportunity. His food is incredible. He's exploding and his business is doing really well. What can we do to really kind of like bring distinction and to bring some flavor to his brand, just like he does to his food? And so that's when we went through a brand sprint process with him. It was very short and quick, wanting to honor the budget that was there. And we brought to life the brand that you guys can see here as Kegan clicks through it. So just a fun brand that's full of personality. It feels juicy and indulgent, just like his food. Here you see people just having a great time at the restaurant. And we introduced a new mascot as well, playing off of the green kind of sandwich paper that you'll often see in many restaurants, but definitely at Cabalar. To cap off the brand sprint, we actually wanted to bring his brand to life digitally. And because there wasn't a lot of money or time, we actually used a no-code tool called Webflow as our first kind of CMS and digital platform of choice. Many of you may or may not be familiar with it. It was really easy to stand up, and it allowed Steve to dynamically edit his menu on the fly at the restaurant and to allow people to very quickly, tap an order for pickup button and get to his Toast platform, which is his in-store kind of ordering software that he uses. Really, we felt like this whole project was a wild success. We were pumped. The community was really responsive to it. And we really felt like, man, wow, like this is a case study. We can't wait to tell people about it. Well, Steve is a very motivated business owner, and he called us very soon after and was like, hey, I actually want to add a food truck to my business as well. And so we had the opportunity to partner with Steve and to build this incredible food truck experience and to design a food truck wrap, which was definitely a bucket list project. We've never gotten to do that before. But what we found from a digital perspective is, man, that Webflow site that we had built initially with the menu editing started to break down when we added a new menu on the food truck. So it was disappointing. And although the site, the little micro site that we had created for him was like functioning, it really started to break down with the new menu addition with the food truck. So Kegan had joined our team, and we kind of internally just knew this is a huge time for Cabalar. This is a time for them to level up. This is a time for us not just to fix this issue, but to double down on the technology. And so we kind of set out with some initial project goals to kind of orient our team and to align ourselves with Steve as we were building this new site experience for him. So some of those goals were, we really wanted to make it happy. That's kind of a weird phrase. It's a phrase that Steve uses, the owner of Cabalar. He uses it all the time. He says, I want my sandwiches and my burgers to make people happy. And he uses it as kind of an adjective to describe his food. Outside of that, outside of making the site feel happy, we knew that we wanted to build it for scale because he was adding locations. We knew that we wanted to make it incredibly easy to edit for his chefs that are all non-technical. Most of them don't even own computers, to be honest. And then we wanted to bring in illustrations and interactivity to improve on the overall brand experience. The first site was just a microsite landing page. And so we really wanted to start to expand that and to expand the storytelling with copy and additional pages and to highlight his product. And then kind of just an internal goal that we had as a team is we really wanted to get on Elizabeth Goodspeed's Bigfooter arena board, which, we put in here. If you know, you know. But yeah, with those kind of goals in mind, our team dove into the project, and a lot of you may have been able to see it in the Sanity Exchange and just by visiting the website. But we're really excited about the solution we were able to create for Steve. The site's very interactive. Here you're seeing a preloader of little spot illustrations. We have different interactive elements with the navigation. We have this wonderful little animation with Bo, Steve's mascot, coming in with the sign. We've incorporated some more spot illustrations and some cards into the site, as well as bringing in Bo for some animated pieces on the 404 page. And then, of course, just like we mentioned as one of our project goals, we had to get our big footer in there somewhere. So yeah, the whole project really felt like a huge win. We launched the site. I think it's been a couple months now since we initially launched it in store, and the reception to it has been, yeah, it's been awesome. Or chef's kiss, I see in the chat. Yeah, it's been awesome to kind of see it live and to see people interacting with it. So I'll hand it off to Kegan at this point. You know, we've talked a lot about brand, but let's talk a little bit more about Sanity and the technology. Thanks, Kegan.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I want to dive kind of into the back end of Sanity, explain a little bit about how we built it and then why we built it too. So just stepping back for a second, looking at the original site, which was built through Webflow, it was perfect for a single menu, and that's about it. So we quickly reached the limitations of Webflow when we introduced a new food truck menu. So the CMS is great, but it didn't really have two-way connections like Sanity does. So we ran into these issues with the menu blocks where we had these categories, say like burgers and sandwiches, that couldn't be dynamic for both like the main street menu page and then the food truck menu page. So this led to a lot of workarounds with trying to just manage and edit the menu for the team. A lot of the times it required us or another developer to go in and make changes for them. So that wasn't a very good solution for them, as well as building new pages. So we wanted to be able to give them the opportunity to create new pages on the fly, which isn't very easy to do within Webflow, at least not without someone who knows the platform and can go in and do that. So one of the things too for that is Cabalar is currently opening and working on a new space, I think within the year. So it's really important that they're able to make new pages and also make new menus. So this is one of the major reasons that we switched to Sanity, is so that we can build this whole beautiful content editing experience for them and let them kind of run with it without having the need for developers every time they want to make a change. So to dive into the Sanity, the menu is kind of broken down into three different pieces. We have menu items, we have menu categories, and then we have the actual menus. So you'll see here, we just have the menus document listing. So this is, right now they just have two, but this is where they would go in and create new menus when the time has come. And these are broken down into pretty simple, just array of menu blocks. So you'll see here, they have the different menu blocks with custom categories, the ability to change the order of them easily, and add or remove items as well. So this was the biggest piece and the best solution that Sanity offered for that. So diving into those menu categories, this is where it was really good, is that you could do custom names. So before with Webflow, you'd have to do kind of a dynamic category of burgers and melts. But if you want it to be different for like the food truck, you'd have to create a duplicate. So now you have two different burgers and melts. So here is a lot easier, where we can just create dynamic naming and then add in all the menu items that you want. So that was a huge win for the team at Cabalar, which they use all the time. So if we go back here, a lot of the times they don't have it up now, but they'll add in specials. So right at the top, they would just add in a new menu block, put in specials, and then link whatever menu items there are, which is awesome. Yeah, here's a good example of that. The menu items are just a reference. So we have this source of truth of the menu items list, which allows them to kind of go in and make changes globally if, say, the price of a sandwich changes or the ingredients changes, or they can go in and add new menu items. And the other reason this is really good is because before with Webflow, they were trying to hack it together. They would unpublish a menu item just to remove it from a block, and that would cause the whole thing to crash down here. So what we love about Sanity is that there's a lot of validation that we can build, and that's already built in. So as you might know, if you go and maybe try and unpublish or remove one of these menu items and it's already linked someplace else, Sanity will happily yell at you for that to make sure that you're not messing up your front end or breaking things down. And then the second piece of this whole project is the dynamic pages. So like I said before, we really wanted to give them a solution for creating new pages on the fly without needing to contact us or a developer. So this is probably my favorite feature about Sanity, is that we can easily build stuff like this, especially with a front end like Next.js, which this is built in. So we have this dynamic page listing, which has a lot of standard inputs like the slug or metadata for SEO. But the fun comes in with the pieces below that, which is full customization of the pages. So you'll see here a content editor has the option of choosing page color, which it can affect the styles on the whole entire page. And then below that, we have a full-on page builder. So as a studio, we love a modular approach to page building. So essentially, without this page builder, if it's empty, all you get is a navigation and a footer. So everything on the website is controlled by Sanity and allows the editors to make changes to that. So this kind of gives them the keys to the kingdom, and we don't have to worry about them messing up any code or styles, and we can safely hand it off knowing that they can take these and run and create as many pages and modules as they want within the healthy boundaries that we set. So you can see a couple of these here, like the hero is linked there. We've got the value cards module down here. We've got just a standard like 2UP module. And we also have incorporated some global components. So the multi-line marquee is actually a reference to a specific type, where if you drop that in, it'll automatically populate with the content that's there. So if you edit the content in one place, it's going to edit across the site, which is a huge win for content editors, knowing that they don't have to go to every single page and change content if they need to. So here's a little look into that module. The other piece that's really awesome with Sanity is that we can customize this. So shout out to the Sanity Slack for helping me find this code. We can create this custom input where we have image previews, we have descriptions, we have titles of all of the different possibilities for modular page building, so that a content editor can kind of see a preview of this and drop it in, move it around, and quickly stand up a page in no time. And you'll see down here, we actually have the menu module. So in the future, when their new space is done, all they have to do is create a new page, drop in probably just this menu module, and right from within there, all it does is reference the menus. They could either add a new one right there, drop in their new categories, new menu items, and they've got a brand new page and a brand new menu up and running. So that was a big win for the team, and they absolutely love it. So we love to hear that from them. Two more fun, quick things I wanted to touch on before we open it up for Q&A is this little interactivity that we have. So on the home page, we have the hours of operation, and then we have Bo the Snake animation with his little open and close sign. So we actually wired this up to Sanity, which is super simple. We have an array of open hours, which includes the day of the week, and then a start and end time for when the shop is open. So every time you visit the page or load it, Bo is gonna check the Sanity hours, see if it's within those times, and then either bring out the open or close sign. So a fun little way to incorporate fun animation with the code and then also the CMS so that when they do, or if they do change the hours, they can easily do that and it will change the animation. And then lastly, we had a fun little pre-footer throughout the site. So this is actually maybe a little bit of a hidden Easter egg. We have these 5 different image placeholders that are pulled from Sanity. They actually pull from a list that's much longer than 5 images. I think there's like 6 or 7 images in there. And what it does is it randomly chooses 5 of them and displays them in this little grid. So you'll notice if you refresh or if you go to a new page, it's going to cycle out these images and you'll get a different set each time, which is a fun little piece that we incorporated. But overall, this was a super fun project for us to do. We are a big advocate of Sanity and we love using it for client builds. And as well as the Cabalar team, they've had lots to say about the editing experience. They really enjoy how quickly it is to make changes. And they love that they can, on the fly, create new menus and new pages. But I'd love to open it up to some questions from you guys about either the Sanity build or the brand, and hear what you have to say.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you eaten their food? Have you had one of their burgers?
Oh yeah.
And is it as good as it looks?
It's kind of dangerous. So I work remotely, so every time I come to Lancaster, I want to eat there every single day, and that's probably not good for my health, but it's probably the best burger I've ever had, and I don't just say that.
I know we probably should have had a disclaimer at the beginning of the talk. Steve's food is incredibly good. A lot of people were losing weight and working out during the pandemic. We as a studio were chowing down and gaining weight during the pandemic. And we were happy to, because we were eating his food all the time, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for a good cause. That's awesome. Okay, so we do have some questions in the chat. So this first one is from Andrew. How do agencies or organizations best centrally manage assets, images, social posts, in appropriate sizes, videos, font packages, brand guiding, etc.?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There's kind of a few ways to answer it, I think. So the first thing I'll say is just to kind of reference Cabalar. Cabalar is a really interesting case study in terms of like digital asset management or brand asset management, because they're really small and Steve he's not necessarily creative. So Thread actually partners with Steve to really handle a lot of that stuff for him, kind of on a retainer basis and relationship. That being said, when it came to Sanity, we really love Sanity's media management and the ability for the Cabalar team to filter content, tag content, manage all of their images in one place. We utilize Sanity on our Thread portfolio site too, and it's kind of the same thing. That being said, to answer Andrew's question maybe further and outside the context of Cabalar, a lot of times with a lot of our clients, we feel like tools like Standard Site or Love and Money Agency just came out with Toolkit recently as well. Those types of resources are really great for kind of building a repository of all that creative in one place. We've used Notion in the past to utilize that too, kind of creating a published Notion page. But having one source of truth for those things can sometimes be difficult. And every client is a little bit different than the one before it. Some clients are really savvy in Figma, and we can kind of build it all in Figma sometimes too. So I don't know if that answers the question perfectly, but Andrew, when you're watching this later on YouTube, feel free to hit us up on Slack if you have any more questions on that.
Cool. And then is there any way to see the code for this? Somebody's asking, is there a snippet for the modular selector with the image previews? They're wondering if you guys can share.
While you're pulling that up, Kegan, I'll talk over you just to save you time. So I'm fairly non-technical. I can mess around a little bit in code, but the module kind of like image preview builder was really important for us because, well, almost everyone we work with on the client side, having like a module kind of modular kit of parts, so to speak, for all those different sections that is visual is really important. a lot of times early on in our process with our client, we talk about building those modules and building those sections almost like they're a kit of parts for the website. Kudos to Fictive Kin. We kind of took a little bit of their thinking when it came to some of this stuff. And we feel like being able to visualize those sections and modules is really important. So when Steve goes in, he's familiar with the 2UP media sections or the marquee sections. And instead of having to figure out the language and terminology that we use to describe them, he can actually just visually see it and drag it into his page builder, which is awesome. Kegan, if you need me to keep talking.
No,
okay.
I got it. I got it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So this is,
can you zoom in just a little bit?
Oh, yes.
Perfect.
Good.
Maybe one
I can't
more.
take full credit for this. I found a couple of these snippets within the Slack community, which is awesome. I can probably reference who found it. I'll need to look back. But essentially, we have a bunch of these Sanity UI elements. So we have the module card. And then I think this pulls from just a static collection of JPEGs. So we pull in the module name. So I export from Figma just like a 16:9 preview of whatever module that is by the same name. And this is going to pull it into right here. So this select module, it's going to just display a grid of them. We can filter by search item. And then also when you select on them, all it does is it's going to select the corresponding array item with the drop down. So it's essentially reskinning that little dialog box that pops up and just has the list of text there. So it's just a more visual way to kind of display that. And if you hit me up on Slack, I can give you a more in-depth tutorial of this code.
Yeah, it's kind of nice too, just even from a documentation standpoint. A lot of our clients are not concerned about technical documentation, but visually documenting it is really important. And so in Notion or in Figma, we can create single sheets that just highlight what content they have to edit and what the blocks are. So it's nice because we can teach them what those modules are, and then they see those modules in Sanity.